Caseus, Clone Wars. Part 2, The Pirates of Valcor. Chapter 2. Caseus and Corbin held their weapons ready as they crept towards their shuttle. Someone was inside going through the supplies. You think it could be one of the villagers? Only one way to find out. Corbin led the way as they boarded the ramp inside the shuttle. In the cargo bay was a small child, certainly not from the village. What are you doing here? The boy spun around in surprise, holding his hands up high. You trying to steal all these people's food and water? No, sir. Corbin stepped closer. I'd suggest you stop lying and tell the truth. Caseus was caught off guard by just how threatening Corbin was being towards this simple child. Corbin, easy. He's just a kid. Caseus stepped closer and knelt down in front of the terrified boy. Tell us what you were doing here and we'll let you go. The boy held out a piece of food and a flask of water. I'm sorry. I was so hungry. I haven't eaten in days. Caseus felt compassion for the boy and took Corbin aside. He's a starving boy. Just let him take a bit of food and send him on his way. That food doesn't belong to him. These villagers are already struggling to get by as it is. Corbin, for crying out loud, they won't worry about a piece of fruit and some water for a helpless kid. Have some pity. We're Jedi. We need to help those who can't help themselves. Corbin sighed and looked at the kid. Take what you need and leave. Don't try to steal from the Valkorians either, or we'll know. The boy nodded, taking 2 pieces of fruit and a water flask before running off the ship and over the hill. Let's get the stuff unloaded and head back. Yes, sir. Caseus gave Corbin a concerning look before helping the troops offload the supplies into the village. After they finished, the 2 Padawans boarded the ship and set their coordinates, lifting off and flying into the night sky. Corbin sat in his seat looking out the window. You want to tell me what that was all about? What? You seemed really angry back there. Of course I was angry. I can't stand people who steal from those in need. I get that, but you can't expect a boy like that to be stealing out of malice. Stealing is stealing, Caseus. Whether you're hungry or not. If he was starving, why didn't he just ask us for food? He was probably afraid of the clones and their blasters. You're making excuses, Caseus. And you're letting your frustration with the war seep into matters where it doesn't belong. Caseus, don't talk to me about the war, all right? Unlike you, I'm on the front lines with Master Terran. I'm not just making supply runs or taking down a few droids here and there. You're damn right I'm frustrated. I don't want to be a part of this war anymore. It's killing me, Caseus. Caseus stood and looked at Corbin. Corbin, relax. Just take a deep breath. Corbin put his face into his hands and tried to breathe. Caseus was now close enough to see the scars and scrapes on Corbin from being on the front lines. He was a mess. He wasn't cut out for war. Neither of them were. Suddenly, the ship froze and came to a halt. What's going on? We can't be back yet. Caseus looked outside the window. They were stuck. Commander, we're receiving no signal. We can't move. Stay calm, pilot. We'll figure this out. Suddenly, the light from the sun seemed to vanish. Caseus looked around. Something was completely enveloping their ship. Everyone get ready! Caseus and Corbin held their lightsabers ready. Their ship was set down onto solid ground as a loud metallic whirring was heard all around them. Suddenly, all the noise seemed to stop. Corbin whispered to Caseus. We've been taken by an enemy ship. What do we do? Stay calm. We wait for them to open the doors and we charge them. We've got this. The loading door soon began to hiss loudly as light peered in. From outside the door they could hear voices. Go! Caseus and Corbin pushed the door open forcefully and leapt out to face their captors. But they immediately regretted that decision when they saw at least 30 blasters pointed directly at them. Caseus was immediately struck by a stun blast. Corbin was similarly shot, and both Jedi collapsed onto the loading ramp as their eyes darkened. Caseus awoke a short time later in restraints. His vision was blurry. He could feel the metal restraints around his wrists, pinning his arms to his back. He heard voices in a strange tongue. but it was a language he recognized. He had heard it earlier in the day. Valkorians. Caseus groaned and tried to sit up, but his head was roughly shoved to the metal floor by a boot to the side of his face.
Stay down, child. Let's not make this any harder for you than it has to be.
Caseus could feel the rigid grating of the floor slowly cutting into his cheek as the boot was slowly removed from his head. Caseus opened his eyes and saw Valkorians digging through the ship and tossing around parts and supplies. We have nothing worth taking.
Ah, but you do. This ship, for example. Not to mention that 2 strapping lads such as yourselves would fetch a fine ransom from numerous buyers, especially Jedi.
Corbin groaned and woke up. Immediately he attempted to fight back against the pirates, but he was quickly knocked down to the floor with Caseus. Corbin!
Now, let's discuss your options. You can surrender quietly, or we can fry your corpses and use your hides for target practice.
The Padawans were grabbed by their necks and forced to look deep into the orange eyes of their captor.
What will it be, boy?
Corbin was fuming. Caseus, we can take them! Help me get my lightsaber! Caseus looked at Corbin and the Valkorians, remaining silent.
Maybe you need some incentive.
With a snap of his long, furry fingers, the head pirate called over 2 of his soldiers with the restrained clone pilots. No!
I do hope I have your full attention now. You have 3 seconds to make your choice. 3.
Sir, don't worry about us. Get out of here.
2.
Caseus, do something!
1.
Wait! The head pirate looked at Caseus. We surrender. Now let them go. The head pirate looked at Caseus and smiled. To Caseus' horror, he raised his hand as the 2 clones were ruthlessly gunned down where they stood. No! Corbin wrenched himself free and charged at him. He made it only a few feet before his eye caught the blunt end of a rifle, knocking him unconscious. Corbin! The pirates lifted both Jedi to their feet.
Never trust your enemies, child. You will only be disappointed when they use that trust against you.
Caseus' face was red with anger.
Take our guests to the holding cell. Make sure they're comfortable. It's a long ride to Kessel.
Caseus and Corbin were dragged away, forced to look upon the bodies of their fallen comrades.